Hey, it's Imogen Lamport from Inside Out Style, coming to chat to you today about some online shopping tips because I know a lot of people have been doing online shopping in the past year due to shops being closed and it being the only way, if you can't get out of the house, it's really important to try and find some way to have those online, that ability to do online shopping has been really useful, but it can be totally frustrating. And so I thought what I'd do today is just bring you a few tips to help you when you are shopping. So the first thing is, unlike I have to manage my clients' expectations when we go shopping that we may not find what we're after, you need to manage your own expectations when you are out shopping in stores or doing online shopping, because the reality is that what exists right now is only the current colours and current trends. You may have a colour swatch, you may wish to find something in a specific colour. It may not be out there. There are colour trends just as there are fashion trends, and these change over time. So really important for you to know that those will change and that you shouldn't expect to find everything you are after. So really important always to manage your own expectations. And the thing is, unlike when you're shopping in person, where before you even take it into the change room, you can feel the fabric, you can get an idea of the color, the shape, the pattern, everything to do with it, and actually look at it and go, what's the quality like? It's much harder when you're going online. And so therefore you should have even lower expectations when you're doing online shopping than you do in person. I think that's something really important to remember. The other thing is to expect to not buy anything. Don't assume that everything you get sent to you is actually going to fit, going to work, going to be any good at all. So just as you would try on potentially lots of clothes, you take more things into the change room than you expect to buy. The same goes for online, except it's even a higher rate of return. You have to treat it differently, and you have different expectations from shopping in person, because until you actually feel it, you don't even know what it feels like until you get it in person. And something that you might have disregarded in a store, you might have got sent to you. So don't have those same expectations as you might when you are in person. So I was going to expect not to buy, expect to try on a lot of stuff and to send all of it, or the majority, if not all of it, back. If you'll get lucky. I think it's like, some days you get lucky. So treat your home as your changing room. So just as you would in store, try it on. If it doesn't work, so decide it's got to rate an 8, 9, or 10 out of 10, or 80, 90, or 100% for you to keep it. If it rates less than that, you don't want it. Then it's send it back, don't keep it. So make sure that you are actually deciding whether or not it works for you, because it may not work for you like you had hoped it for. So if it doesn't rate an 8, then forget about it. Send it back. It's not the right thing. So treat it just as you would if you were in a change room and you went, I'm not taking these things because they're not right for me. Easy versus hard. So where to start, and what to shop for. So one of the things I always think about is, what do you normally find easy to buy? So if you say, I find tops really easy to buy, but pants are really hard, don't even think about buying pants online unless you're planning to buy 50 of them and send all 50 of them back. Because it's already hard enough before you get things. So it is that sort of thing. I go, if you already find something hard to buy, assume it's going to be doubly hard online. And also too is when we're buying in person, we'll often take 3 sizes in, a small or a medium and a larger size, and we might try them all on to see which size works best. You have to do the same sort of thing in person. I remember somebody saying that, I know somebody who was looking for purple jackets, and she bought from multiple different stores, something like 15 purple jackets, with the expectation that she might keep one of them. She wasn't planning on having 15 purple jackets. She was just getting all the purple jackets she could find and then trying them on, expecting to send the majority of them back. Hopefully, she was hopeful that she was going to find one she really loved. So with a pair of jeans, I do know people who buy 10 pairs of jeans so they can try different sizes and slightly different styles, and then send everything that doesn't work back. So if you find something in particular particularly hard to buy anyway, online is usually not the right way to go, just because it can be frustrating there. Look, you can do it, but it is having that expectation to lower your own expectations that anything is going to work. So generally stick what is easy. And this is why I think I buy jewelry online, because it's one of the easiest things versus going for something that's more complicated. I buy things that I know that have got more chance of working rather than less chance, just to make it a little bit less stressful on myself when I'm thinking about this. Let's talk about colors. So one of the hardest things to do is to know, is the color in the photo accurate? So it may be that what you see is not what you're getting. And I have seen this plenty of times where people have, bought something, and when they actually get it home, it's warm and it looked like it was cool, or the other way around when they were looking at it on the screen. Or here is an example of a dress. Is it bright? Or is it more muted? And it's which are its actual colors. So this is where you don't know, because sometimes what they'll do is artificially brighten up the photo to make it more exciting. So they can do that to make it look, jump out at the screen for you. They're generally getting a bit better at this, but interestingly, this dress, like, which one is it? Is it the bright or is it the more muted? Turned out at the bright. How do I know? Because what I did is I did an online search to see if I could find this dress anywhere online. So you could do a Google image search where you can basically capture the image, put it into the image, like basically into URL. So you go into images, you can actually drag and drop. You have to kind of save the photo. So you could just do a screenshot, or even just copy the photo from the website, or do a screenshot of it and then pop it into the Google image search, and you can see if it comes up. And I actually found somebody wearing this dress on Instagram, and it turned out it was the bright version. But that's one of those things that, so sometimes like Instagram and things like that, if it's something that's quite a label that maybe somebody, it's a more common label, so somebody might have tagged it. You might find it on something like Instagram. You can also search things like in Google Images via images, like, and by color. So you can put in like blue spotty dress and just happen to see if it comes up potentially. But don't expect the colors necessarily to match your palette. And so have an expectation that it might go back because the color isn't accurately represented on the screen as how it comes to you when you get to see it. Sizing. This is one of the trickiest aspects of online shopping because there are lots of different issues with sizing. So when you're trying to find the best fit, so some of the things you need to know is to know your measurements and look at the measurements that they have. They'll often also tell you, the model is a, size 10, or is wearing an extra small, and she's 170 centimeters tall, or whatever it is. So the more you know what's my height, and like how is that going to impact on comparing me. So for something like the height, is really useful to look at that, to go, well, will that skirt that's coming up to the knees of the model be down on my mid calves because she's incredibly tall? Or will that thing turn into a mini skirt, or like, is something that's a mini skirt will actually be a bit longer on me because she's got super long legs? It can be useful to know those sorts of things as well. Also look at the sizing and what they're actually saying is size. Measure your existing clothes. It's really useful. So if you think, well, if I'm looking for a jacket, say, if I go into my wardrobe and I go, which is my best jacket, which is the length that's the best for me? If I measure from the shoulder down to the hem, because they'll often give you that length as one of their measurements of a garment, and then you can actually go, well, is that going to be way longer or way shorter than what I like to wear? So knowing kind of those measurements, so measuring your existing clothes and see how the measurements of what works for you compares to what they are selling before you buy it, because this can give you an idea about sizing as well, or just if something is going to be too big or too small. And also things like knowing that if there's more ease or stretch in fabrics, that you'll be able to, like the size is not quite as important as if it's something that's more structured, where the size really has to work for you. And it is one of those things, buy multiple sizes if you're not sure. Don't be afraid to buy multiple sizes, and expect to send things back. And so when we're thinking about fabrics as well, I'm always thinking about what's the fiber content. So have a look in what your wardrobe at the clothes you love and last well, and write down the fiber context. Well, often it will say it's 20% this and 5% that, and whatever it is. Write those down, because then as you're going through the listings, you can have some idea, is that a fiber content that's worked for me in the past or not? Also look at the things, maybe if you have anything that doesn't work, before you get rid of it, note down if there's something particularly uncomfortable, something you really don't like about that, then that is where it's like, what I want to know is what's not working as well as what does work. So really important when we're thinking about these aspects of clothing. So finding your favorite. So what are your existing, what's in your existing wardrobe? What do you love? Do you like things with stretch? Do they have elastane in them, or whatever it might be? So know what it is that you love. And then what fabrics won't you ever buy? So this could be, I hate scratchy wool, or I can't bear, for me, I can't wear bengaline. It's noisy. And I don't like noisy fabrics. I like things to be quiet. I don't like jangling, jewelry either. So noise really kind of interrupts my thought processes. So for me, I know noisy things are really annoying, so I just won't buy them. Or I don't like the way some fabrics sit, that I think they're too stiff and they stand out too much. They don't work for my body. So what are the fabrics that you think are just not going to go there again? And one of my other tips is, if the list of fabrics, the fibers is too long, so basically after about 3 fibers is okay. Once you get to 5 fibers, it generally will not wear well. The more they've mixed lots of things together, the wear often goes down, so it's going to wear poorly. A fiber like acrylic, I just won't go there. It's something I just won't wear, because I know it wears very poorly, very quickly, and it looks old really, really fast. I always remember going into a client's wardrobe and we're going through some jumpers, and I found this one, I went, oh, this is like pilled and horrible. And she said, it's 3 weeks old. And that's how fast acrylic wears, and it wears poorly. So just don't buy it. So there are some fibers you might just say, I don't like. Knowing that things like viscose are a little bit more delicate in the wash. You can't put them in the dryer. They shrink when they're wet. You have to iron them out. Knowing that if I don't like ironing, I need certain sorts of fabrics. Knowing that if I'm happy to iron, other sorts of fabrics work. Knowing that if I put everything, what do I put in the dryer? All these things make a really big difference. So have a look at those tags. Start to learn what works for you in your wardrobe now, what fabrics work. Get to know them, because then when you are going online, you've got much more information. You're much more aware of what's going on. And of course, until you actually get it home, you've got no idea what it's going to feel like. And feel really matters, because these are the things on our body, and it can feel like if something's itchy or scratchy, it can be incredibly uncomfortable. If it's too stiff, all those things really, really matter. So you won't know what it actually feels like until you get it in your hands. And this is one of the reasons why online shopping is such a hit and miss, that even when something can say something, it might be silk, but maybe it's a poor quality silk. It could be, a cashmere, but it's a poor quality one, and it just hasn't got that same feel that you are after. So really, until it's in your hands, you'll never have 100% idea of what it's really feeling like and how well it's working for you. So reviews. I think reviews are really, really important as we are you're doing this, and read the reviews. See what other people have said. Even if it's not that garment, if you don't know the store, start trawling around to see what other information you can find, to see is this store a good store or not, or are people complaining about customer service all the time? If people are making a lot of negative reviews, that's a really good warning sign to say, just don't buy something from there, no matter how pretty it looks. And there are all sorts of places you can go for reviews. So just read the reviews on their website for the garments, but we don't know sometimes where they, particularly new sellers can come on and stack some reviews with some, oh, it's so amazing. And you might see exactly the same review on every garment, and you go, okay, well, they've just had an employee put reviews on there. This is not not real. Versus you could usually tell real reviews because they'll talk about, you know, it's sized a little big compared to my other stuff, or it's sized smaller, or it's, you know, the color is a little bit whatever. Like people will comment on the size, the color, the quality, and the experience they had of purchasing it. If it was fast delivery, slow delivery, if their customer service was good, if it was terrible, all those sorts of things. Really useful to read the reviews. And two, if you're looking at websites that you've got no experience of before, this is where you can also go onto a web review website. So you just look up like reviews of whatever website you're after, and you'll often find these review websites will kind of aggregate information people have said about, you know, different online stores. So that can also be a really useful thing to do when you are actually thinking about, you know, should I buy this? Shouldn't I buy this? You know, is this store reputable? Will I even get this, or won't I get it? Will it turn up or not? So like the easiest place to buy from is the online versions of all the stores that you go to regularly. That's always the safest, but there is a lot of that kind of still quite limiting. There's actually a lot of other online stores that maybe you can get fabulous stuff from, but you haven't had experience with them. So this is where I often start small with one of those places, see what your experience is like before you know, and if you have a terrible experience, write a review. Like let other people know that this is not the place to go. If you have an amazing experience, also write a review. Let people know what to expect. It's a little about kind of, you know, terms and conditions, the sorts of things that are worthwhile knowing about. Like one of the things to think about is what are their payment methods. Now, especially if it is a store you have never heard of before, if PayPal is there, I would use PayPal as a way of paying because PayPal gives you additional buyer protection. So if it doesn't turn up, PayPal will basically give you your money back. If they don't, you know, your customer service is bad, honestly, PayPal will give you your money back very easily. So and the thing is as a seller, they know that PayPal does this. So generally you get the people who use PayPal generally have a higher standard on the whole, but use that PayPal option because it does give you more buyer protection, particularly if you don't know, you've never experienced the seller before. Things like returns and customer service, like how easy are the returns? Are you, you know, paying for the returns? Is the shipping free or do you have to pay for it? I was looking online recently and, you know, one of our kind of big stores, I think it was the Iconic, it's like, it's the first time you return something is free, but after that you have to pay. And I go like that starts, you could, you know, like we've got to treat this as if it is, you know, it's a change room. It's a virtual, you know, you bring things home and it's a change room. This is not, I'm not committing to the stuff I'm buying. So I'm a little bit more hesitant to buy from a store that's going to charge me for a whole, you know, like where I've got to pay all the shipping to send it back. Than if it has free returns. So this could be something that you want to think about. How easy do they make the returns? Like, do they send a slip, like a return slip and potentially even a returns bag? I mean, I can handle going to buy a bag, but if they've got a return slip and the prepaid postage and all I have to do is pop that on the bag, I don't have an issue with that. So how easy are the returns? What's their policy? All those sorts of things, because you are going to return things. So assume you will be returning things. And this is why looking into those, what are their terms and conditions? What are their return policies? And if it is a 7-day returns, make sure that you do it in time. Like don't put these things off. And know that that's part of what it is. But remember, you haven't had to drive to the store, find a car park, all those other things. So the time it's spent in returns, you know, could be seen as the time that you haven't done those other things. Search terms. What search terms are you using? Because this is something, particularly if you're looking for something specific, maybe, you know, you might have searched for stuff and you're going, I'm just not finding anything. But there's a good chance there's something out there on the internet for you. But it is thinking about what are the search terms you are using. And so this is where there's lots of different ways to do searches. You can just do like you can search on websites. You can also do things like even do something like a Westfield site. You can actually go in and say, I want a leather jacket. And you can see what stores they have in that Westfield are currently selling a leather jacket. So that can give you some ideas of where to go. But also you can just go on Google and search for things. And then one of the really worthwhile things is to look at how they have put search terms in as well. So look at their descriptions, see how they were describing these items. And especially too, is you'll often be sent to Pinterest, and there's a lot of shopping website and links on Pinterest as well that can help you find places to go shopping. But also to think about, like, look at the search terms that they've used, looked at how they've tagged the photo or tagged the item, because you might thinking about, I'm buying, I'm looking for athletic wear, but in fact, it's better to search by the word leggings. So it could be, like thinking about what are those search terms. Do that Google image search that I mentioned earlier. If you find the look, like, the look of something that you like, you can do something like that. Searching on even things like kind of aggregators, such as like Shop Looks, can be useful to see if they've aggregated something like that. But do think about, like, look at other search terms. So when things pop up, notice how they are labeling things and what other search terms may come up that are useful to try. And Pinterest is a great tool to find things as well. Plus, you can search by, like, I want something in red or blue or green. You can search those things on Google if you're looking for a specific color as well to see what comes up. So there's lots of different ways. And of course, Google does have their shopping links as well. So you can use that, but don't just limit yourself to that, because there could be a bunch of stuff that you haven't found because you've only looked in what is obviously shopping, like what Google has put down as shopping, because they're seeing stores rather than the stuff maybe too outside of your location, so that maybe they're not giving that information to you. So they may not be thinking about that. That sort of, garment or whatever. So, like, it's just not put in there for you. So hopefully that's given you a few ideas about different, ways of online shopping and how to be more successful. But I think the thing to remember is expect to send everything back. Expect to buy widely and send things back. And I know it feels like work and it may feel like a bit of a hassle, but it is going to give you a much better experience, and also to ask around, like talk to other people, see where people have had good experiences versus bad. I mean, I always think the more information, so there's a lot more research that goes into shopping online than it would be in shopping in person. But it is one of those things, you may want to start just with the stores you know and have experiences with compared to going anywhere. But if you do want to find something more unique, more different, and even things like Etsy is fantastic. Like there's so many online makers. And one of those things, if you go into an Etsy and you are looking for something and maybe you find someone and you're not sure about it, contact the seller. The sellers on Etsy are always happy to answer your questions. Plus there's all the reviews and things, but you can also find things that way. And I always think it's much easier to buy something that's simple, that's got a good chance of, fitting versus, like something that's much more complicated that you always are frustrated by when you are searching for and shopping for. So there you go, a few little tips today. Hopefully they help you with your online shopping experience. Bye for now.